Honestly, I've been blown away by how many brands are making the exact same costly mistakes over and over again. We're talking about mistakes that are straight up bleeding money from ad accounts. The crazy thing is, these mistakes can be fixed in probably under an hour. If you're still running your meta ads like it's 2019, this episode is probably going to be a wake-up call. The platform has evolved dramatically, and therefore your strategy needs to catch up fast. And so by the end of this episode, you're going to have a crystal clear roadmap on what to fix in your ad account today to stop bleeding and start driving better performance. So grab your notebook, open up your ad account, and let's dive into these critical meta mistakes, and then also the structure that's absolutely crushing it for our clients right now. So the first thing we need to understand is that Meta's core philosophy that most people are fighting against, Meta's algorithm, the machine learning system of Meta, is way better at optimizing your campaigns than you. So your job is to set the right financial guardrails in place and let the machine do its thing. But here's mistake number one. Most people are doing creative testing campaigns, for example. You're constantly optimizing. You're taking it out of creative testing. I have other videos on this. We don't need to go super deep on this. Second major mistake is ads turning off without a rhyme or reason. So, I make up some arbitrary number and therefore it's not a winner. And so I'm going to turn it off. But basically those two scenarios, you're trying to compete with Meta's probabilistic forecasting tool, an algorithm which has vastly more data than you do. So I constantly jump into these ad accounts and see the highest spending ad doing really well just turned off. And when I ask, is the SKU out of stock or is it no longer relevant? There's no good answer for this. So like I said, the algorithm has fundamentally changed in 2025. 10 years ago, you can manipulate the machine. The old playbook is dead. So you need a new structure. So that's what I'm going to be talking about and sharing with you. And it's not theory. These are real results from managing millions in ad spend. So first thing, right off the top, let's stop arguing around creative volume versus diversity. It's going to be the mix of both, volume plus diversity. We want to maximize every opportunity there is. So not either or. You want to build diversity across many different dimensions. So we want to look at these formats. These are the ways that you can build diversity across all 5 dimensions. So formats, video, static, carousel, UGC or professional, angles, okay, here's a problem, focus, social proof, the different persona types, right? Different customer segments. The styles, so like professional, studio shot, UGC, animation, and then obviously context, so like seasonal, trending, evergreen. Every creative is another at bat. So especially with cost controls, which is what we're going to talk about today, as well as just in when we talk about ad account structure. The whole beauty of cost controls is that it allows your winners to amplify and then your losers are being suppressed. So everything scales naturally. And you might be wondering, so if I have different audience segments, shouldn't I put them in separate ad sets, like a yoga mom ad set? So I would say definitely not. We want to keep all creatives in ad set regardless of which persona they're aimed at. So what you don't want to do is start organizing ad sets by creative type. Why? Well, the algorithm is much better than we are at mapping out which creative resonates with different audiences. Again, you've heard me say this, they have trillions of data points. If you aren't subscribed and you stumble on this video, go subscribe right now. But I drill this point home. They have trillions of data points. So critical intel from even our insider reps at Meta that are very high up. Meta doesn't view content as being different if too many of the pixel are the same. So if you have the same image with just different text 10 times over, Meta necessarily wouldn't understand those are different. So if 70% of the pixels in the image or video or thumbnail are the same, it doesn't read it as separate. So why you need diversity is exactly that. You want as much angles, formats, personas, styles, context as possible. So let's get into the structure here. I mean, this is something that quite wordy, but ultimately what we want to say is that the new setup can handle high creative volume effortlessly. It rewards deep creative diversity and optimizes faster at greater scale than anything we've ever seen before. So typically what you'll see and what we communicate for a new brand is we want campaigns structured per SKU or per offer, kind of saying that synonymously. Why? Ultimately, because cost controls work on predictable AOV. So each campaign needs to be separated by that different AOV that leads to the financial outcome that we need, right? So whether that's first order profitability, first order contribution margin positive, or hitting our LTV target and making sure that it's backing into those LTV to CAC ratios. So imagine you're maybe a healthcare brand and we're talking about our best-selling product. So we're talking about a specific set. So for that particular SKU, we might have 400 assets. You can only fit 50 ads inside of one ad set, and you can only have 5 ad sets, so that's 250 ads. So we need multiple ad sets, but the reason why we separate by offer is cost of delivery being quite different, COGS being quite different, discounting being quite different. There could be different instances like where we have multiple landing pages with no discount, no offer, just positioning the product differently. So we would pull into the normal campaign because we want them to compete against each other. Since it's the same AOV, we want them to deliver. But typically, if it's a brand new campaign, for any landing page with different financial outcomes, we would have that in a separate campaign. So if you have 400 ads for a particular SKU, you would have to separate that into a second campaign for that particular SKU, or just wait on those 150 ads to supplement those for bottom spenders when you add new content to them. Just wait and hit the 250 ad limit for that particular campaign. So like I said, for the ad set structure, you want 50 creatives at maximum per ad set. That is the limitation of the platform itself, but we want to maximize those opportunities. So in theory, as you get new content in, that would get its own ad set. So we want a multiple ad sets per campaign to accommodate the high creative volume. When we talk about ad set refresh process, so we ensure that when we input content, we want that content to have at least 7 days, ideally 14 days, to try to generate spend, get impressions, get purchasers. And when we get, like, let's say 30 new assets, what we do is go into whatever is not spending, and we will go through and identify where we need to pause ads or delete ads in order to create more space. So you're always maximizing the ad set before you add a new ad set. But it also depends on the account. If I had an ad set that was out of learning and performing well, I would just create a new ad one. But if all ad sets were active and like one was in learning limited, I'm just going to adjust that one, for example. Targeting. We want to run everything broad. No lookalikes, no interest targeting, no segments. Creative is the new targeting. You've probably heard that before. If you want yoga moms, you need creative with yoga moms. We want to trust Meta's algorithm to match ads to the right people. So broad targeting allows better performance and outperforms segmentation. And then at the ad level, we want creative strategy and optimization. So again, creative volume. We want to have as much creative volume at our disposal. There is a $25 million brand that I audited earlier this year that had 11 ads active. They're spending over $300,000. We easily took them from over 11 to 260 within just a month, and the performance followed. It's very easy for us to do that and get a quick win just by getting very streamlined forecasts, tying everything back to their profitability and top line goals, and then giving as much creative as possible. And it's not spray and pray. The top performers are very high quality. It's just getting as much creative volume, every piece of creative that we can deploy. Every piece of creative that we can put into the arsenal of Meta unlocks potential scale and opportunity. So when we get new creative, I've already kind of touched on this on the launch strategy itself. We're launching new creatives. It requires a specific approach. Meta heavily favors existing ads with social proof, conversion data, historical signals. So when you launch new creative, we temporarily loosen the bid with flexible cost caps, give those maybe 10 to 15% higher than our normal cost control in the existing campaign. Allow them to breathe, gather some initial data, and then normalize. In some instances, it's 40% elevated. So if a brand is really pushing new content to get spend and they have room in terms of blended CAC, we want to allow for some inefficiency. And in those instances where we super elevate the cost control, as soon as we're getting 50 purchases in that campaign, we'll pull down that cost control to normal levels. But in most cases, it's elevated for 7 days maximum, and then we pull it down if it got no spend. And at that point, it's kind of, you're welcome for no longer continuing to burn money. You should be pulling that down. Obviously, I've been mentioning cost controls time and time again. We want to run those across the entire thing, entire ad account. We run 100% of our accounts at Kinship on cost controls, never lowest cost. So we want to align that to our CAC target. Ultimately, we're trying to align our AMER target up to our blended CPA and then ad account CPA. Attribution strategy. We run everything on 7-day click. Unless the 1-day click, we know the delta lift, and it's a very impulse buy. So we are eliminating view through attribution. It leads to a lot of fluff that otherwise already is happening in that account. And when view through is high, for example, like a 2, it's often organic demand or product seeding or influencer marketing or Google spend that Meta is taking credit for. So we want to get that out of the view and ultimately just focus on click attribution and orienting the pixel to go after clickers and purchasers. So some critical implementation details. We definitely want hard exclusions. Every campaign should be a prospecting campaign in the sense that we're trying to drive new customer growth through Meta. So Big three. You want to exclude last 180-day pixel purchasers, Klaviyo uploads, the entire customer list, and then Shopify audiences. We first want to define them, but then we also want to implement them in the actual ad set. So at the campaign level, we want to define the audience, and then we want to implement it. So those are our default exclusions. Shopify gives us the most information, so we can pull in phone number, address. Klaviyo will sync in real time. So Shopify is the most impactful one, but we typically update Shopify once a month because they're not dynamic. And we utilize Klaviyo, so it's more dynamic, but Klaviyo's information doesn't match as well. So again, you want to define existing customers, but then you also need to put that into the campaign settings. It's not just your definition. Meta will just say, great, that's a great definition. But you need to have those exclusions be identical to your definition. That is a critical point. When it comes to cost controls, like I've already said, we want to run everything on cost controls. We want to orient it around a predictable financial outcome that works for the business. And then from a budget management, that means that we don't have to pay attention to budget, meaning we're not constantly bringing budgets up and down. We run cost controls with inflated budgets that gives Meta the room and freedom to flex up and down when the auction dynamics of that day, and they do vary day by day. It'll automatically do that for you. You don't have to manually adjust the budget when needed. This is massive headache that is saved. So most of the bid strategy options we run on cost caps. Sometimes if it's like 1,000 SKUs, for example, we will run target ROAS campaigns when AOV is very variable and different and no clear customer journey. So let me recap the shifts you need to make now. The new ASC structure with multiple ad sets. The campaign is separated by SKU or offer for that predictable AOV. You run that with cost controls with inflated budgets, and then you have hard exclusions for prospecting campaigns. Every campaign is a prospecting campaign. The only time that you should be running retargeting or remarketing campaigns, every campaign is remarketing, but retargeting in terms of like existing customers is if you're not seeing the new customer acquisition offset the dip in returning customers by turning those off in your ad accounts. So what I mean by that is that as soon as you start steering everything towards new customers only on Meta, your returning customer might take an initial hit, but it should, in theory, and this is what we see time and time again, be offset by the amount of new customer revenue coming in, and then they'll follow the normal repeat rates that you anticipate in your business. But if that's not happening, then it's worth running retargeting campaigns and have for existing customers and have that a much higher ROAS expectation. Of course, you cannot have that on the same target. So then at the ad set level, we want 50 creatives maximum per ad set, and that is the maximum. Each new creative batch gets its own ad set. Run everything broad, no targeting, and then refresh non-spending ad sets every 7 to 10 days. And then at the ad level, again, maximize creative diversity, launch new creative with temporary flexible cost caps, and then focus on 7-day click attribution for optimization, and eliminate low spend, low performing ads regularly. So if you implement just one thing from today's episode, I would focus on creative diversity and stop running separate testing campaigns. Start building those production pipelines immediately. The transition might feel uncomfortable at first, but the performance will speak for itself. As always, if you're looking to hit increased performance, every piece of creative that you launch in the ad account with a cost control eliminates the freedom and ego and over-analysis on testing creative and just being able to launch that, giving yourself every opportunity to maximize scale. And as always, if you're looking for me to audit your ad account, we do this completely for free. So you can hit me up on any platform. I'm happy to help. Comment below, email me, DM me, and I'll see you in the next one.